Hey, interest rates are higher than they've been in a long time, and a lot of people are wondering, how do I choose the best interest rate at the bank on CDs or maybe other instruments to take advantage of it? So I'm going to share with you a couple of strategies about interest rates and interest rate cycles, and the best strategy may not be what you think. So I'm going to draw a very simple, like an interest rate curve historically, and if I start here, maybe this would be like 1980, and when the interest rates were really high. Let's say they were maybe 10%. And then as we come along, they started to decline pretty fast around 2000 or 2001, and they leveled off for almost 20 years until 2022. In 2022, the Fed raised the interest rates very quickly in order to control inflation, and now we might be somewhere in here where they've leveled off. So the question is that if we could go back in time to 1980 and we could say, hey, what would I have done knowing now, had I known that then, if I could have locked in a CD at 10% for 20 years, hypothetically speaking, I would look like a hero. Because while the rates are dropping and everybody else is getting new CDs at maybe 6 and then 5 and then 4 and eventually getting down into the 3s on long-term CDs, and I was still getting 10, that was a really smart move for me. The opposite is true when interest rates are low. So when interest rates are low, we lock in for the shortest amount of time, because if you were a person that in 2021 locked in a CD at, let's say, 2%, but you had to hold it for 5 years, now you might be kicking yourself because CDs have gone up to 5. So the basic rule with interest rate cycles is when interest rates are high, you lock in for the longest period of time that you can. When interest rates are low, then you use the shortest period that you can. So a lot of questions are, well, what's happening right now? The Fed has stopped raising interest rates. They're kind of holding steady to make sure inflation's taken control of. And it even looks like the 10-year Treasury might be starting to turn. There's another clue as to what the bankers think is happening. And they're going to play this game too, but on the opposite side. So if I was to draw right here what a normal CD comparison might be at a bank, let's say you have a 1-year CD, a 3-year CD, and a 5-year CD. Normally speaking, the shorter duration CD pays the least amount of interest. So in this example, let's just pretend that the 1-year CD is paying 3%, the 3-year CD is paying 3.5%, and the 5-year is paying 4%. That's normally what it looks like. But right now, it's flipped. And what you're seeing now is if we have a 1-year, a 3-year, and a 5-year, they're actually paying more on a 1-year, and it might be 4%, and then 3.5% on a 3-year, and a 3% on a 5-year. So why are the banks doing that? It's the exact opposite of what we discussed on this interest rate curve. They're trying to give you an incentive to lock in for a short amount of time while interest rates are high, because they don't want to be paying you a high interest rate when rates drop. They want that CD to come due, and then when you go for another CD, they're going to refinance you, so to speak, into a new CD at a lower rate and a lower rate. So the biggest question is right now, well, what is the smart move? Do you kind of follow the most tempting thing and lock in a CD that's the highest paying rate, that might be, let's say, 5.25 right now for a 6-month CD? Or do you take a look at maybe a longer term and lock in the interest for the longest period of time that you can? Depending on what your investment strategy is, you may want to start looking at longer term CDs because it may pay off in the long run. Other things to consider is that CDs are not the only instrument that you can take advantage on this interest rate curve. There may be things like treasuries from the United States Treasury that you can lock in for even up to 20 and 30 years if somebody felt like they could do that. Had you done that in 1980, you would be a hero. There are other fixed instruments that have guaranteed interest rates, whether it be that from insurance companies or other places. But the key is that when you're shopping for interest rates, and we're in a high interest rate environment as compared to where we've been historically, generally speaking, you want to lock in for the longest period of time that you can, as long as it meets your time horizon and what time you need to use that money.